All right, let's get right into it. For NFL Week 8, most of the usual analysis you're hearing is probably missing the point. Our source material points to three specific, kind of overlooked factors that are going to be the real deciders in every single game this week. We're talking wild weather, critical injuries, and some massive statistical imbalances. So, here's the game plan. First, we're going to uncover the three big picture forces that are going to shape the entire week. Then, we'll see exactly how those forces are rewriting the script for certain teams. And finally, we'll get to what you're waiting for, the final predictions for all 13 games. Okay, so what are these defining forces? Before we can even think about picking individual winners and losers, we have to understand the powerful undercurrents that are going to affect the entire league this Sunday. You know, you always hear the same things. Is it the star quarterback, the genius coach, home field advantage? And yeah, usually it's a mix of all that stuff. But this week? Not so much. Other factors are about to take over. For Week 8, our analysis shows the answer is way more specific. Three key variables are about to wreak some havoc, creating these really clear advantages that, honestly, are going to be almost impossible for some teams to overcome. So here they are, the big three: environmental conditioning, catastrophic attrition, and exploitable mismatches. In simple terms, bad weather, game-changing injuries, and just huge, glaring statistical gaps. These aren't just little details, folks. They are the core drivers of this week's outcomes. Let's dig into those first two. All right, first up, let's look at how the weather and some key injuries are teaming up to create what our source material calls predictable chaos. And we'll start with the environment itself. Our source material has this great concept called strategic tilt. Think of it like this. Mother Nature basically walks onto the field and forces both teams to throw their primary game plan right out the window. All those fancy, high-flying passing attacks, they get grounded, and the game turns into this gritty, physical street fight in the trenches. And here is exactly where we're going to see that tilt in action this week. 4 games are looking at some serious rain and wind. This immediately favors teams that are built for this kind of ugly football, like Baltimore with its powerhouse running game, and Pittsburgh, a team that absolutely thrives in these low-scoring slugfests at home. Now for our second factor, attrition. And look, we're not just talking about some guy being out for a week. We're talking about an injury so critical it completely cripples an entire unit, forcing a team to totally abandon its identity. I mean, just look at the devastating impact this has on Tampa Bay. Losing their top 2 receivers isn't just a downgrade. Our source calls it a systemic collapse. Their whole offensive identity is just gone. It makes them super predictable and, frankly, incredibly vulnerable. And the Bucs aren't the only ones dealing with this. The uncertainty is all over the league. The Ravens' entire offense is different without Lamar Jackson. The Panthers have to start a backup against a really tough Bills defense. And Washington's chances against the Chiefs? Well, they're pretty much tied directly to whether Jaden Daniels can play or not. Our third and final factor is all about finding those mismatches. You know, the games where the data just points to a contest that's going to be completely lopsided. Yeah, our source material does not mince words when it comes to the Colts versus the Titans. It calls this a maximal advantage. So what does that actually look like when you break down the data? Well, it looks a lot like this. The Colts have the most efficient scoring offense in the entire league, putting up more points than anyone. Meanwhile, the Titans, they have the absolute worst total offense, dead last, number 32 out of 32 teams. The gap here is just enormous. And here's the root of the problem. It's not just that the Titans can't score. They can't even protect their quarterback. Allowing 11 sacks in just 2 games is a massive, blinking red flag. It creates the perfect storm for the Colts defense to just dominate this game right from the opening kickoff. All right, so we have our 3 keys: weather, attrition, and mismatches. Now it's time to put it all together and see how these factors shape the predictions for every single game this week. We'll start with the most confident calls. First up are the games where the data points to a clear, almost certain outcome. The analysis gives these a confidence score of 8.0 or higher on a scale of 1 to 10. These are pretty close to locks. So our 4 most confident predictions are for the Colts, Bengals, Saints, and Falcons. And notice how each win is driven by one of our key factors, right? The Colts have that massive statistical mismatch. The Saints are facing a Bucs team that's just decimated by injuries. And the Bengals and Falcons get to play opponents whose offenses are, to put it nicely, non-functional right now. Next up are the games with a strong favorite. These are driven by superior talent and some key situational advantages. They aren't total slam dunks, but the predictive model is definitely leaning heavily in one direction. In this next tier, we've got 5 clear favorites. The Chiefs are getting hot and might face an injured quarterback. The Eagles and Chargers have big advantages playing at home, while the Bills and Cowboys just have way too much firepower for their opponents this week. And finally, we have the tightest contest of the week. In these games, all those factors we talked about, especially weather and injuries, make the outcomes much, much harder to predict. That's why they have lower confidence scores. These are basically our coin flip games. In those rainy, windy conditions, the model gives a slight edge to the home teams in what should be defensive battles. That's why the Patriots and Steelers get the nod. Meanwhile, the Texans' smart play calling gives them a leg up on an injury-riddled 49ers team. And finally, the Ravens are built for messy conditions. But that's only if Lamar Jackson is healthy. These are the games that could really go either way. And here it is, the whole shebang, the full picture for Week 8. This table puts it all together, and it shows you the why behind every single pick. You can see the huge confidence in a Colts win, a 9.8, driven by that massive statistical gap, all the way down to the Ravens game, a 5.0, a true toss-up that really just hinges on the health of one player. So that wraps up our breakdown for NFL Week 8. The data gives us a clear path based on weather, attrition, and mismatches. But as those very same factors show us, chaos is always just one play, one gust of wind, or one bad injury away. Thanks for watching.